Neanderthals got dealt a pretty shitty hand by the anthropologists at the time of their discovery, and the perception of them was rooted in racist ideology. Many people in modern times still see them as these primitive, brute cave dwellers. And it's a terrible shame that they're still being seen this way, and it's time that we change that. So, if you know anyone who questions or doubts Neanderthal intelligence and their skills, then I would suggest that you point them to this particular video, because today we're going to change the perception of Neanderthals and we're going to show their intelligence and their skill set. So my name is Kaylee, and in the past I've mentioned the intelligence of Neanderthals a few times, and in my latest video I've mentioned the importance of Neanderthals in the evolution of hominids and, evidently modern humans, us. Neanderthals were incredibly important to our evolution. Instead of just saying to you, they're intelligent, I am going to dive deep. So today I'm going to go a little bit further than you might think. I'm going to look into their intelligence and the evidence that we have found supporting this. We're going to look into the skill set they had and their cognitive brain functions, because you do need to have certain skills to, be able to do some things. So join me. Let's change the perception of Neanderthals today. Homo neanderthalensis was introduced to the scientific community in 1864 by William King. And unfortunately, the impression he gave of our extinct evolutionary cousins would be long-lasting. The anthropologists at the time had their perception rooted in racist ideology that a person's intelligence or humanity could be assessed by examining skull shapes. William King examined a skull that was discovered in the Neander Valley in Germany, and he concluded the skull to belong to a brute. The word Neanderthal from then on was not just to point out this specific hominid, but it became a derogatory term as well, and it's time we change this for good. In the past couple decades, the archaeological community has made several new discoveries that changes our perception of Neanderthals completely. Unfortunately, not everyone is aware of these new discoveries, and so the old perception of them being brute lingers on, which is a terrible shame. So Neanderthals lived from approximately 400,000 years ago until 40,000 years ago in Southwest Asia and Europe. They had stone tools, bone tools, and they created ornaments from bone, just like their modern human counterparts did at the time. And they created necklaces from eagle talons as well. That's a depiction of art. As I've mentioned a couple times on the channel now, they did invent glue, and for everyone in my comments in my last video screaming to me that they did not invent glue, yes they did. And creating glue from birch bark isn't as easy as you think it may be. It's not extremely difficult, but still, it's not an easy thing to do if you have no clue. I wouldn't know how to do it. Would you? That's the question. Probably not, because, you need to learn how to do it. Here you can see an example of a spear with the birch pitch gluing the spearhead to the wooden shaft. An incredible find of a flint tool with a piece of birch pitch glued to it was discovered at the Zandmotor Beach in the Netherlands in 2016 by Willy van Wingerden. This tool dates from approximately 50,000 years ago and is a perfect example of the ingenuity of Neanderthals, and one of the most incredible finds ever made in the Netherlands, as there are only 5 similar finds discovered in the entirety of Europe. New studies on stone tools suggest that they had the technology to spark fires. They used a flint and pyrite fire-making system, and even in some cases they used pyrite on pyrite. There have been multiple pieces of pyrite found from the Upper Paleolithic that show traces of fire making by the striking method. But because of the phenomenon we know as pyrite decay, most, if not almost all, pieces of pyrite that were used for fire making have disintegrated over time. We also know from more recent studies that they were indeed able to cook their food, and this shows that they were evidently able to make their own fires, and they did not just chase down embers to create fire. They created it themselves. They didn't need to chase an ember to create their own fires. They made it themselves. And this is the evidence of the pyrite and flint method, the striking method to create fire. I mean, let's be honest, they probably made fire by just using wood and string, because they did create string. I'm going to mention that later. But the twisting method to make fire, it's a method that's been used a lot, even in survival programs. Maybe I can show it on screen. But yeah, they probably used that as well. Not just, flint striking methods. This all just shows how similar they were to the Homo sapiens later on, and that we really need to rid ourselves from the old ways of thinking when it comes to Homo neanderthalensis. Then there are the pieces of evidence that Neanderthals had ritual and spiritual and even burial practices. You do need to have a certain type of intelligence to be able to come up with that. There have been burials of Neanderthals found in the Middle East, but these date from a time when modern humans lived in the same area, and they most likely had some form of contact, so it's unclear if the Neanderthals in this area came up with the idea of burying their dead on their own. But all the way back in 1908, there have been tombs discovered at La Chapelle-aux-Saints in the southwest of France that showed that Neanderthals intentionally buried their dead, as the researchers discovered 50,000-year-old well-preserved bones. This dates from a time when modern humans hadn't arrived in that area yet, showing they started doing this without the influence of modern humans, and thus coming up with the idea of burying their dead themselves. Of course, because of the narrative surrounding Neanderthals at that point in time, there were many skeptics that did not believe these burials to have been intentional. But as you can see from this pit in a cave in France, this does seem like an intentional grave. It's been dug and dated to have been created by Neanderthals, and in the past decade there have been a number of discoveries like this. These new findings not only suggest but show that Neanderthals possessed complex forms of thoughts and were able to give special treatment to their dead loved ones. In my previous video, where I hypothesized that Neanderthals could have possibly lived with a rudimentary form of agriculture after they cleared large sections of forests, I mentioned that at the French Bruniquel cave, Neanderthals created stone circles out of stalagmites approximately 176,000 years ago. This shows their building skills. Deep inside a cave where no natural light reaches, they discovered pits where fire would have been burning to give them enough light to be able to create these circles and possible walls that have collapsed over time. This again shows their ingenuity and intelligence, and their skill set. For a long time, it was believed that only modern humans were able to create abstract and figurative forms of art, but the discovery of 65,000-year-old abstract cave paintings in Spanish caves show that this is definitely not the case. It's sort of accepted in the scientific community that modern humans did not reach Western Europe before 42,000 years ago, and since these cave paintings are 65,000 years old, they must have been created by Neanderthals. Neanderthals have been able and capable of creating string, as the oldest piece of string ever found was discovered in a cave in France dating from 50,000 years ago. To create string, you need to have some understanding of the concepts of pairs, sets and numbers, as this is needed to create a strong string from twisted fiber. 3 groups of fibers made from the inner bark of a conifer tree were separated and twisted clockwise in an S-twist. Once twisted, they were then twined anti-clockwise in a Z-twist to form a cord. This find shows that Neanderthals had a detailed understanding of trees and how to transform a tree into different functional substances. A find like this is showing that we cannot look at Neanderthals as anything other than the cognitive equals of modern humans, according to the study surrounding this string. I've linked the study about this string in the description down below, just like pretty much everything I mention in this video. I've got papers on everything, I got nature articles, I got life science articles, so if you're interested and you want to learn more about any or all of these pieces of evidence towards Neanderthal intelligence, click one of the link or all of the links down in the description below and, research for yourself and tell me what you found. Because I did read them all, but I didn't really process them all as I'm writing a script and I want to make clear and concise videos. So I had to leave huge parts out, and I even put in a link towards them wearing feathers that I didn't even get the chance to read because I just, might look into that in the future. But let's move on. Based on the examination of Neanderthal bones, we can conclude, without a doubt, that they were able to make complex sounds, which points into them having a form of communication or language. Of course, as you can imagine, there are some researchers that are quick to argue that they did not have a sophisticated way of communication, but modern humans from around the same time period left us no clues on their speaking abilities as well. So it's not too far-fetched to believe both hominids had a way of communicating not only with their own species, but with the other species as well. This I personally don't find to be a stretch because we know that modern humans and Neanderthals actually mated with each other. And I personally do believe that you need to have some form of communication to, eventually mate with each other because, do we both want this? And even if it wasn't necessarily, consensual, because I don't know how that went back in the day, but even then, I do feel like there was at least some form of communication between the two species. That's not a weird thought, actually. So many people on the planet have 1 or 2% of Neanderthal DNA within them, and there are people in Southwest Asia and Europe that have up to 4% Neanderthal DNA, which is the highest percentage that you can have at this point in time. And for a long time it was believed that the people in Africa had no percentage of Neanderthal DNA within them. And they actually quite recently discovered that there are people in Africa who have up to 0.3% Neanderthal DNA within them. A large chunk of the people living on this planet in modern times have at least a little bit of Neanderthal DNA within them. That's pretty cool. Homo neanderthalensis wasn't our dumb cousin. They weren't the brutes and idiotic cave dwellers as they've been portrayed for so long. Nor were they inferior to modern humans. We don't know why they disappeared, but they were important. In fact, like I mentioned in my last video, there have been studies conducted in the past decade that show that indeed, like I hypothesized, modern humans actually were taught many things by Neanderthals, and we have at least one definitive piece of proof that actually point to this. Neanderthals have most likely taught us modern humans some skills that we previously thought modern humans invented themselves, like the creation of bone and stone tools and blades. For instance, the tool you see on screen is known as a lissoir, which is a tool that was used to smooth out hides to make them tougher, and for a very long time it was believed that this tool was created by modern man for the first time, because there was no evidence of it being created earlier. That was until they discovered this particular piece in a Neanderthal site of Abri-Peroni in Europe. This piece dates to be approximately 51,000 years old, meaning they cannot have been made by modern humans, and because we know modern humans used this tool later on in the historic timeline, they probably learned that from the Neanderthals. For many researchers, specialized bone tools were thought to be one of the technologies that separated the two groups of humans. This is no longer the case. This, however, does not suggest that Neanderthals were the very first hominid species to have created bone tools. There have been bone tools discovered in Africa that are older and thus suggest that hominid species have been creating tools for at least more than 400,000 years. Neanderthals, however, are without a doubt the first hominid species in Europe to create specialized bone tools. Finds like the ones that I mentioned in this video are the evidence that I give to you as the viewer that points to the intelligence of Neanderthals, and it shows that they were capable of inventing tools and ways of life and things that they used during their life that for a long time were believed to have been attributed to modern humans. It's time we give our extinct cousins in our hominid tree of life the credit that they deserve. They truly were an incredible species that survived on this planet for more than 360,000 years until their sudden demise. No one knows why they disappeared, why they went extinct, but we do know that their legacy lives on in the modern humans that still carry Neanderthal DNA in their genomes. They live on inside of us, and if you are the carrier of Neanderthal DNA within your body, you should absolutely, without a doubt, be proud of that, because that does make you sort of unique. And it's a legacy that you will pass on to the future generations, and that's pretty awesome if you think about it. In the future, I will create a video looking into the Denisovans and their intelligence, technologies, skill set. And I will probably eventually create a video looking at the differences and the similarities between the three species, the Neanderthals, the Denisovans, and the modern humans. And I don't know, let's have fun with what we can uncover and how similar are we, how different are we, and let's stop pretending that they were brutes and dumb cave dwellers. They were absolutely, without a doubt, intelligent. And as many people pointed out in my last video, with the clearing of the forests, where I, for fun, hypothesized that they could have been the first farmers in a very rudimentary sort of agricultural way. Yes, most likely they cleared it to attract the big grazers who would graze on the grasslands, and that would make their hunting a lot easier. Of course, that's probably most likely the reason why, but when you drop a seed and you see it grow, you put two and two together. I do feel that Neanderthals were at least intelligent enough to understand that. So let's stop pretending that they were dumb, because this video shows you they absolutely weren't. And we modern humans most likely learned a whole lot from them. We at least know about the lissoir, how we make hides tougher, probably for shelters, because of course they created shelters. We even know that in Russia, the modern humans in Russia created shelters from mammoth bones and hides, because that was all they had. And bones don't decay as fast as wood, for example. So if a Neanderthal community created shelters with branches and hides some 150,000 years ago, we would not find any evidence of that today, because the wood would have decayed and completely disintegrated, and the hides would have completely disintegrated too. There's nothing left of that. So that's impossible. And that's okay, because we know they were intelligent. So let's stop pretending they weren't. And if you enjoyed watching this, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you'd like to see more of these kind of videos, and let me know in the comments down below if you do, because I would love to know. And if you want to see more of these kind of videos, then yeah, subscribe, click the bell icon, and if you haven't seen my previous videos yet, click the card in the upper right corner or click one of the links in the description down below. I'm not going to read out all the patrons and the channel members, and I'm sorry. I know I usually do this, but it's the end of the year. I'm tired. It's been a week. So I'm sorry. It's been a week. This has been my last video in 2021. This has been an insane year for me. My life completely changed. A year ago, I just got monetized and made my first $5 in 2020, and I was in a long-term relationship last year that I ended in October this year. turned 30, moved twice, and yeah, I'm sort of in between where I need to be in life at the moment, which means that, yeah, it can be a bit straining to me. I enjoy making these videos. They are a very good distraction from my daily stresses and things I don't want to think about that I do need to think about. I mean, it's healthy, it's good, I enjoy it. I love making these videos. It gives me a sense of purpose in life and it makes me happy. And I will definitely keep creating. And thank you all for making my 2021, even though a lot of shit went down, probably one of the best years of my life. You guys, your support and your belief in me and my capabilities and my skills and my work has given me a purpose in life. So thank you. And I hope that soon I'll be able to live off of this channel. And if you do want to support me, then you can do that through Patreon or to become a channel member. If you want merch, then go to historywithkayleeshop.com. And yeah, let's make 2022 an amazing year. I want to create a lot of content for you, but I also want to travel to locations. And to do that, I do need money. So I'm trying to save, while I'm also trying to save to start living on my own soon. I want a lot of things, and I'm not going to have all my dreams and hopes come to fruition, but at least I can try and work hard. So I'll keep creating videos for you guys to see, and I hope that you guys will keep supporting me and my journey. Thank you. Thank you all so much for an amazing year, and I'll see you in the new year that I hope will be even better. So have a great New Year's Eve. Kiss your loved ones, hug them, call them, tell them you love them. Be good, be kind, be yourself. Never change for anyone. And yeah, I care about you all because you all care about me. See you in the new year. Bye.